My work as an activist scholar really began when I was a teenager. I became very involved in women's health and in women's rights to control our own bodies. And that I did as a young student, as a young feminist in Boston, and as an anti-war protester as well. Those were my early years. So I was studying, and I studied many of the great uh, political theoreticians, but I also wanted to apply that into making our lives better. Then fast forward, I had the opportunity to travel 5,000 miles to Mexico, and then found myself in a wonderful Indigenous community where I then saw a great need to share knowledge with women, but also, even more importantly, to learn from the women in the village. And so my activist scholarship again took the form of learning and learning from all kinds of peoples, all kinds of ideas, and then applying them to see how these ideas actually took root and applied in real life. The most important experience I had was leaving the city, leaving the university, and going to the University of the Jungle and learning from, and particularly the women, though I certainly learned from men as well, and from the animals and from nature. Those were all my teachers. And really, I was very passionate about sharing knowledge and exchanging knowledge. And I was very fortunate to start a school, which I taught for 3 years. And then during that time, I worked with the women in the village to open up a health center. And this health center was designed to really honor and elevate traditional knowledge, traditional Indigenous knowledge, the role of nature, the role of plants and animals as our teachers, as our allies, and to understand that we are part of nature, and therefore nature has given us all that we need to stay healthy and get healthy. And so my early years were marked by successes because I was able to share news of reproductive technology. We worked to develop ways for women to make money, because if a woman can earn her own living, then she is often liberated and secure, because so much of financial dependency fuels the control of the man over the woman. And so some of the great lessons I learned about the role of culture and the way different cultures have these various methods of working with nature and using nature has been a universal theme. But I think those early years living with the armadillos and the scorpions and the snakes and making friends with them, as well as the sea urchins and the plants, but above all, the men and the women, really I count as my greatest joy and my greatest success. In that sense, the obstacles weren't so much with the women, the obstacles were with the visiting priest, who was not happy that women were learning about contraception. The way we're taught to think and perceive reality and perceive the world, I think that's kind of an existential obstacle in which we're always trying to deconstruct. And this is what I began to understand as so important to experiential education. And while we study ideas, it's more important to experience them. And I think that's so important when we find ourselves in communities other than our own, that we don't go in thinking that we know things, because we don't. We go in thinking, what can I learn? What can I be receptive to? I was arriving because I was in search of myself. I was in search of who am I and who am I in this world and how do I want to live? And I needed some time and space and I needed an adventure to discover myself and what I was meant to do and what my purpose was. And no sooner after I arrived than I got sick with everything. And that turned out to be such a gift because then I discovered that I could heal myself and that I met my neighbors and my friends who said, here, take this herb. Oh, here, that's what that is. I can help you with that. And so it was that organic process where it was like, oh, you've shared with this with me. How about if I share this with you? And so it was very much an organic exchange that evolved in time out of mutual respect and admiration, which I think is the ingredient to being a successful activist scholar. I would say that I am very pessimistic, but I am very optimistic about the capacity for change. And I think we need a balance. I think we can't be all starry eyed thinking that everything's going to change by itself. And so for me, my pessimism and what I think is the reality of what I observe with greedy people and greedy corporations who want to take other people's land, who want to destroy our waterways and our plant life, who want to spray pesticides and do harm to Mother Earth just for their own greed. I'm very pessimistic about our ability to stop them. But that pessimism also drives my optimism that I have to remain positive and I have to keep on working toward change. I think the most important thing is to think outside the box and not feel that we have to do what we've been trained or taught to do. Many of us have to recover from the school system that we came through because often it's rigid thinking, it suppresses creativity. Sometimes our families want us to be something that we're not. And it's very important for us to fight the pressure to conform, to fight the pressure to follow along like all the other little aunties in the world. We need to really dig deep into ourselves, into our heart, into our spirit, into our bodies to identify what's my passion? Why am I here on earth? And include in that not only my own fulfillment and satisfaction, but to also embrace that requirement that along the way we help others. That is our mandate. We help ourselves, we help others, and we also help the earth.